Hello and welcome back to the Rollfast vintage bicycle build. We're working on the front wheel today. I have cleaned it. I did not disassemble the front wheel though like I did the rear wheel. But I've cleaned all the grease and dirt off of it. Particularly I I disassembled the hub, took out the bearings, cleaned the bearings off, and inspected it. The important thing you want to look at are the surfaces where the bearings rotate, the ball bearings, which the parts that they touch. And inside the hub, on this particular hub, this surface here is called the cup. This is a cup and cone system. So this cup area in here, you need to inspect that to see if it's worn out. If it's worn out, it'll just destroy new ball bearings if you put them in there. And if the cup surface of your hub is worn out, then your hub is shot and you'll need a new one. The cup surface on this hub looks very nice. I'm going to reuse it. However, the cones, which are the other part that touch the ball bearing, here's a cone right here, they were completely shot. The old ones that were on here had pits and grooves right in there. You can see this little area is where the ball bearings would run, and that was completely worn away and destroyed. This will give you some idea. This is a bearing retainer and it's got ball bearings in it, and you can see those ball bearings fit right on that cone. Well, they would go this way actually. They fit right on that cone and they roll on that little indented surface, and the other side of those ball bearings roll around in the cup like this, and the axle screws through the cone, and that is what makes your front wheel work. So the cups were okay. I can reuse this hub. I don't have to tear apart this wheel and get a new hub for it. The cones were shot, so I found some, after some research, I found some new cones that were a walled part that said that it would fit a Weco hub. I kind of took a flyer on this one because I found two different sellers on a popular auction website that were selling new cones, new old stock walled cones. Walled is a bicycle part manufacturer that said that they would fit Weco hubs, but they had two different model numbers. And I just eyeballed it and I looked at the pictures of the two different parts and I tried to just pick the one that looked as similar to what I already had as I could, and I got lucky. These fit exactly. They perfectly work for this Weco hub. This Weco hub, I know it's a Weco hub because it says Weco on it. It also says made in Germany, which is interesting because this is too old of a wheel to be built after World War II. And since it just says made in Germany, not made in East Germany or West Germany, this leads me to believe that this wheel was manufactured in Germany maybe in the 30s. So this is an old wheel. Or perhaps they had this hub left over. I'm not sure, but I think that's an interesting little artifact of history there. Possibly this hub was made in Germany prior to there being an East Germany and a West Germany. It certainly was not manufactured since reunification. Anyway, so that dates this wheel a little bit. So the cones, I got new cones to replace the old cones. Also, these retainers, the ball bearings in there, never reuse ball bearings if they're at all questionable. And ball bearings are so inexpensive, you might want to always just replace them as a habit, just out of hand. Just always go get new ball bearings. That's what I did here, and I just popped the old ball bearings out of this retainer. I put the new ball bearings in there, and now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pack these ball bearings with grease and put a slight layer of grease on the cup and cone surfaces and bolt the front hub back together. So I have my trusty giant grease gun here. You don't have to have a giant grease gun like this. You should be able to get, you know, the proper kind of grease in a small little tube, I would imagine. But this is what I have, so this is what I use. I don't want any gross junk in my bearings, so let's get rid of that. And basically packing the bearings with grease is getting grease all over your hands and packing it into those bearings. This is the way I do it. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. However, I just like to get greasy and get it done. You can see this retainer is really nice about holding onto a big bunch of grease and bathing those ball bearings with grease, which if you were just packing these bearings loose without a retainer, then it wouldn't be as easy to pack them. I mean, it's still pretty easy to pack them. I don't want to lie to you, but I like the idea that the bearing retainer gets packed full of grease and retains some grease. So I've still got a little grease on my fingers here, but not a whole lot, but enough to get some grease on that bearing surface there, that cup. I'm gonna put a light little coating. Whoa, come back here. Light little coating of grease on that cone as well there. All right. So I'm going to, bearings with retainers fit one way, like this. I don't know how to describe it any other way, but that'll fit in there just fine. Now I'm gonna do the other side. Like that, and hold that stuff in there while I do it. Wipe a little grease around in that cup. That's good. Very nice. And pack the other bearing. I'm using some high temperature automotive axle grease that I got at a auto parts supply store, which I use to grease the kingpins on my old pickup truck. I believe this grease will work just fine for a bicycle as well. Some people are very particular about the type of grease they use. I believe this to be a pretty good grease. I think it would pass muster with most people, even if they were picky. And a little grease on this cone here, on the other side. And then we'll make sure I'm putting the bearing in there properly. I am. Drop it through this away. See if I can get to just start to screw in a little bit on the other side there, so I don't lose it. There we go. And you can kind of see here that the axle fits right through the hub, and then there's the bearings, and then there's these cones. That holds the whole thing together. The cones on the inside are threaded. They're like nuts, as well as providing a surface for the bearings to roll on. And outside of that, there are other nuts to hold your wheel on. So you'll tighten these cones down, and you want them to hold everything in place, but you do not want to over tighten. You don't want to really crunch your bearings too much. I like to tighten and test, and I tighten it until I feel just a little bit of resistance, a little bit of not goodness, if you will, and then I back off the cones just a hair. There's not a, there we go. You just don't want them too tight. Slightly loose is better than too tight when it comes to bearings. But you'll get it. You'll be able to see how this works pretty easily. And there we have it. This wheel is almost ready to put on the bicycle and check it for true. And if it needs to be adjusted and put back into true, I will do that on my bicycle using my front forks as a truing stand. I've got my bicycle flipped over. I've also bought a new rim strip. There's a strip of, usually rubber in the old days, or some sort of elastic material now, that goes over there that protects the inner tube from the spoke nipples. And the one that was on here was a vintage one that just broke in half as soon as I tried to take it off. I just walked to my local bicycle shop and got a new one. Just ask for a rim strip for a 26-inch wheel if you need one. $5 for a pair. Not too bad. All right, so that's packing and re-greasing the front wheels. The only part that I didn't show you was the cleanup part, but that's really straightforward, and I don't think you need anybody to teach you how to clean stuff. All right, ciao.